Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. It's your T-shirted historian. Oh my, it's been 2 weeks. And it has not been an easy 2 weeks. I mean, even though it's been 2 weeks of holidays, we didn't have any show on Tuesday night because of New Year's. And I couldn't have one in the morning for the same reason I couldn't have a show last Saturday, which is because I had construction people working on my house. So, yeah, I figured between the air hammers going off and the nail guns and banging and talking and everything else, it was kind of like, I'm not going to be able to get a word in edgewise. I can't shield the microphone enough from all the external noise to not catch all of that. So I made a judgment call and then decided, we really can't have a show on those days. And as it happened last Tuesday night, I figured, nobody's going to want to tune in. They're all going to be going out and celebrating with their friends and getting drinks and everything else and celebrating the new year. Nobody wants to go and hang out with a bunch of geeks. Maybe I was wrong. I don't know. But, it gave my crew a couple of weeks off and gave me a couple of weeks off. I hope y'all all had a good Christmas. Mine was rough. I got to spend Christmas morning in the ER. That was a lot of fun. About 5 hours. Feeling better. Problem hasn't totally gone away. It's probably going to need surgery at some point, but we'll worry about that when it gets there. All right. So I've been out of this for a couple of weeks. So what have I been doing? Well, I've been catching up on television mostly. Been watching a lot of older shows and things. Catching up on some older games and things. Restarted Cyberpunk 2077. Now that it's gone through all of its iterations and supposedly is in its final form, I can honestly say that the experience is a lot more interesting now than it was whenever I first started playing it when it released. It's certainly a lot less buggy. Although I never really had all those crashes and stuff like that a lot of other people did. I was lucky, I guess. Even though I'm running an ancient piece of hardware here. Somehow it still manages to get everything, even with all the enhanced graphics and flibberty doodads that make the game look awesome. I would love to run it on a more high-end PC, but unless you happen to have one laying around that you don't mind giving to me, that's not going to happen. But I enjoyed it. It was fun to be in Night City again. It was fun to hang out with Johnny Silverhand, and now that he appears in the car more often while you're driving around, his presence is more felt throughout the game, which is kind of something that they were going for. And I like that. So yeah, overall, it's been fun. Started rewatching The Sons of Anarchy. It's an old show. I mean, I can't believe how old it is now. I mean, it's like almost 14 years old now. And, man, that was a good show. The guy who was behind it, Kurt Sutter, I checked out all of his other projects, and, he was only on the first couple of seasons of Mayans, which kind of tells you why that show started to really tank after season 2. I mean, yeah, I watched it all the way to the end, but man, it was It was not a good show. It's not something I want to rewatch. I did watch the first season of The Bastard Executioner. That had some promise, but a lot of it did kind of seem a little bit like torture porn. So, I don't know. Maybe that's why it didn't last beyond one season. I thought it was kind of interesting where it was going. And apparently he's got another one in the works. But what interested me the most is the fact that Sons of Anarchy is really where I recognized Taylor Sheridan for the first time, playing Hale, the deputy police chief in Sons of Anarchy for the first couple of seasons. Because now Taylor Sheridan's a big name. You know, he's got lots of productions under his belt. He's got Yellowstone. Well, that's done now. And yes, I did catch up on that finally. He's got 1883. He's got Yellowstone 1923. He's got Lioness. He's got Landman, which is my current favorite one. He's got Tulsa King. He's got all these great shows that he's part of. He's producing, he's writing, and all these other things. And it's just amazing. I almost think that if you watched all of his shows kind of as a whole, you could kind of get a little tiny sliver of how geopolitical politics kind of comes together, along with, you know, food concentrations and networks and things. Because from Yellowstone, we kind of learned how the ranching industry is slowly dying out, being basically crushed under the Brazilian beef industry. You know, I haven't watched Lioness yet, so I can't speak to that. A lot of people said they didn't like it. Tulsa King has given us some small views into, you know, how criminal dynamics work. Second season was not that awesome, but I'm still tuned in. Landman has obviously given us a lot of a look at how the oil industry works. So I don't know. I guess he's going to continue to make shows like this. And I think what's interesting about it is, you know, the show manages to kind of educate you in a way where it's not really necessarily beating you over the head so much, but the characters are saying things that, you know, a more educated person might say. Because usually you don't have a conversation with somebody and they'll tell you all about, you know, the oil industry. But I've been enjoying them, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of them. So anyway, that's about all I've got, really. I mean, you know, like I said, the last 2 weeks I've really been just kind of taking it easy. I probably should have been getting more work done, but I didn't. I really needed to recharge my batteries, and after my stay in the ER, I kind of decided, you know, it's probably a good idea to kind of get things under control and see if we can't head that off before I have to go back to work. So anyway, why don't I bring on our other panelist? Because apparently only one showed up today. You know, I got 22 people in my thing, and only one of them ever shows up. Mr. Grimm.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm okay. So what did you do to yourself for Christmas, and why didn't you tell me?
I didn't want to worry you.
Trip over the dog?
No, nothing like that. I don't want to really get into it on the air because it's kind of embarrassing and it's kind of gross. So,
all right.
Just say, let's just say it involved a great deal of pain. I mean, I'm a pretty stoic individual. I can withstand quite a bit of pain, but yeah, this was to the point where I was kind of like, you know, I think I probably need to go to the ER so they can, you know, do some cutting. As it is, they didn't do any cutting. Things kind of settled themselves, but
yeah, it's when you get the cold sweats and the lights in front of your eyes, I think, then it's time to go to the hospital.
Yeah, usually. I mean,
yeah, I had a tooth abscess once. That was the most excruciating pain I've ever been in.
There was an instance last week where I did have pain that was so severe I was up until like 6 o'clock in the morning, and really honestly considering, stepping in front of a moving vehicle, train, or something else just to end the pain. But I managed to get through it.
So much for the opioid crisis.
Yeah, well. On the one hand, though,
did you get any cool nerd shit for Christmas?
Me?
Yeah. Did you
Books.
get anything, or are we too old for presents? Yeah.
We're not too old for presents, but I mean, like, I think I got some beard cream and some shave stuff, and that's about it. I mean, honestly, not a whole lot. How about you?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Booze and some more booze, and the next Berserk leather-bound Ultimate Edition thing. So I think I'm up to volume 6 now. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of my nephews just got into a bunch of manga, so bought him a load of One Punch Man graphic novels. So yeah, at least one of them reads.
Okay. I've got every volume of that deluxe Berserk. Is 6 the one with the fairies?
I don't know. I haven't actually cracked it yet.
Oh, okay. I can't remember if it's 6 or 7 that has the fairies in it, but there's a story in the Berserk books about fairies, and it's never been translated to any form of anime, but after you read it, you can kind of understand why they were just a little hesitant to print it, or to put it into art. But it was a good story. All of Berserk is really good, I think. I think we lost that man way too soon. I really wish he could have finished it before he died. But
I kind of hope George R.R. Martin does die so someone else can finish his work.
Yeah, he's not gonna.
With a better ethic.
New Sheepherder chat is Ghost. It is? Nah, we're all here.
I see a few of you.
Yeah, JP Got Raga says, I've often said I'm speechless. I can't even say because I can't even know. Yeah, there you go. Parrothead says, T-shirted historian's woman caught him looking at another woman. I wish I had a woman, my man. That would be nice.
Didn't know you had a woman. That's why the attack was such a surprise.
Yeah, that would do it. That would do it. Archer Collin, hey, it's good to see you. Silverlock, yes, ER does suck.
The show or the place?
And yes, my ear trumpet has been struck by lightning, otherwise known as Mercurius, for Australian $2. Happy New Year t-shirt in chat. Thank you very much, sir. And for you, let's see. Oh, they changed around this stuff, so I'm having to relearn StreamYard. Let me see. What can we do for you? What have I got? Have I got some new ones here?
Do you have new ones?
I don't have any new ones. So it's got to be an older one, but this is still a good one.
Huh. Good to be seeing eye to eye again. Thanks, V. Truly.
I probably should just load up on Cyberpunk clips, but that would be easy.
Well, you got the show and the game to choose from, so
there you go. So, yeah, I thought G.R.R. Martin told people to burn his manuscripts when he dies. I don't know.
Yeah, they ain't gonna.
Yeah. Somebody owns all his work, so. Heretical Nerd, good day. Hey.
G'day, Cobber.
He could pick up where GRRM leaves off. Yeah, well. Something kind of interesting I did finish out over the break is Dune Prophecy. Now, just to be clear, I thought those 2 new Dune movies sucked. They did. They sucked. I'm sorry. I will die on this hill, but Denis Villeneuve, whatever his name is, sucks as a director. He does. He is a wonderful cinematographer. But as far as getting performances out of his actors, he sucks. And his whole approach of, not saying anything in order to get more, stuff out of his actors. It's like, I don't like it. And some people tried to chide me for it and say, oh, in Dune, he spent more time focusing on the desert because he recognized Arrakis as a character too. And I'm just like, bullshit. If I wanted to go and watch a landscape, a CG landscape for, 3 hours, I'm sure I could put something on YouTube at home, and they'd probably put some nice music on to accompany it.
So are you basing that on just those 3 movies, the Dune and the Blade Runner sequel?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because I don't know if that would give a fair read on characters, because in Blade Runner, most of the characters are remote or artificial in some way, and so distanced from humanity, and so they would have a flat affect to them. And in Dune, apart from the Harkonnens, we're dealing with a more evolved, calm version of humanity that acts consciously rather than subconsciously. So they would similarly not give the same human read. So that may not. What else has he done? Because I think you might.
Sicario.
I didn't see it, so I can't speak to it.
I saw Sicario. It was okay. It wasn't anything memorable. A lot of other people really enjoyed it. I just thought it was okay. But
I like that he mostly respects the lore of the books and puts something sort of genuine up on screen. And I felt like he did a decent reflection of Blade Runner that didn't try to change the original, but rather built on those foundations. So I can appreciate that kind of world building aspect. Maybe he does suck at characters, but I don't think you can judge from those 3 films.
I mean, I only need to sample shit once to know that it tastes like shit. But I mean, you're free to eat as much as you like until you find a flavor that you enjoy. But I mean, okay, Blade Runner sucked. It totally does, because for one thing, nothing of the original world existed. It was just like you're watching 2 completely different movies set in different times that have completely different everything. I mean, the tone of the film, the look of the film, nothing in the sequel matched the original by far. And I understand that there's some time is supposed to have passed between the films, but still, it's like, and not to mention, some of the strongest parts of the original film are not in this one. I mean, it's like, okay, we had replicants in the first film who were more human than the replicants in the second one. It just seemed like it was a lot of an excuse to show off lots of landscapes and cool stuff and lots of long periods of silence and characters that really never developed or went anywhere or had any payoffs or any emotions or anything. I mean, just the whole thing was just silly.
Again, most of the characters, the pivotal characters, aren't people in the proper sense. So that kind of makes sense. I don't know. The original Blade Runner is pretty slow paced. There are long sections where not a great deal is happening, or even when it's a bit cringy, like when he's investigating the stripper. It's a different landscape. It's a different scope. But I felt it honored the original, and just
the original had the original built on its scenery, its backgrounds, its everything that was going on. There was always something happening in every single scene that kind of helps tell the story or contribute to it in one way or another. I mean, whether or not it's people always having to wear head coverings and umbrellas because of the rain all the time, or the fact that there is so much language pollution that, there's Chinese and Japanese and English and other languages all meshed together into, well, a mash, with nationalities and everything, just like in a big giant cluster. The weird mishmashes of styles, old and new, that some of the characters wear. They're just, I mean, honestly, I could make the entire show about Blade Runner and still probably not get done talking about it, because it's just that's why it's so amazing to me, and it's why I'm always saying it is my favorite film of all time. It is the film that established the look of cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's one of mine too. But I do like the sequel. I do wish they'd concentrated more on joy and had made the question in the second one more about that level of abstraction. Is that kind of artificial person a real person? Instead, they kind of shuffled her off stage a bit too quick for me, and then completely undermined it with the advertising projection that talks to him. So
yeah,
that to me was the most interesting aspect of the second film, but they didn't really satisfy me by going into it or turning it into an interesting question. So.
Well, the one thing that the second Blade Runner film kind of tackled more of than the first one was artificial intelligence, which is, something that the first film didn't really touch on. It was more involved with, humanocentric qualities and things assigned to artificial beings.
Yeah, though replicants have been changed from, they were more definitely androids and gynoids in the original stories. Then they become this sort of quasi-biological entity in the film. And then in the sequel, that just gets taken a little bit further. So it doesn't really ask those AI questions, because these are biological creatures. They're just made biological creatures. So it's a bit of a different scope.
Well, from what I understand, I mean, and I've had long discussions with Gary about this, but the replicants themselves are, like recombinant DNA creatures. Their parts are manufactured and assembled, just like, you would a robot. So they're completely artificial in construction, even though their tissues and stuff like that mimic humans so closely that, yeah, you can poke a hole in them and they die, kind of like humans. But
you don't really get the impression that they're put together from parts from either film, but certainly not the second, and not from the market where the artificial animals are. You get the feeling that these are being like grown in bags or something, the same way they're trying to do those artificial lambs.
I did not need to. That was the biggest complaint I had about the second film, was I did not need to see a replicant being born. That was just so unnecessary, and it was just. I'm just kind of like Denis Villeneuve was like obviously satisfying some kind of personal fetish by putting that on the screen, because nobody wanted to see that.
I think he was overemphasizing how the company sees them as completely disposable inhuman beings. But I don't think he needed to include that scene. I think that was already sufficiently implied. So I don't know, maybe studio notes or something.
Exactly.
It's interesting talking about Dune and saying that the characters in that are flat. A lot of big idea science fiction, like Dune, like Foundation, isn't very character centric at all. And in fact, that's pretty much the point of Foundation. But then the Apple series has gone the other way and kind of inverted Asimov's idea and point, and has made it about the great men of history, about whom the world turns, and about Harry Seldon rather than his theory of psychohistory. so has completely missed the point of Foundation in doing that. But they've done that to make it more approachable to more casual viewers, I think, by rooting it in human drama. But I think that's not necessarily the best thing to do for these big ideas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anyway, I mean, just I hated that new Dune. I hated that new Dune so much. For one, it didn't give any characterization to anybody. It really limited the scope of what a lot of these characters were. You never really got a sense of how depraved, nasty, or cunning, or anything that Baron Harkonnen was. And I hate to say it, but I was like, yeah, the 84 Dune, still the best Dune, although the sci-fi miniseries of Dune and Children of Dune are very close to the books, and pretty much if they had like a massive, Hollywood budget to make those, they would have been exceptional. Because they did a good job with those.
The effects are horribly dated, but otherwise it's still pretty good.
Yeah. But I hated Dune.
The guy who plays like the genetic echo of the Vladimir Harkonnen in the Children of Dune series, he was really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of those miniseries are really good, and I'm lucky I've got them. But yeah, they were just a cut above. I mean, for sci-fi series, but that's kind of something I've been kind of studying on the offhand anyway, since I've been watching Dune Prophecy. Is Herbert was anti Isaac Asimov, whereas Isaac Asimov, with his robots and Empire and Foundation series and everything else, was very kind of ivory tower-ish with his, like humans are going to evolve this way and be this and only have these kind of conflicts. And Herbert was just kind of like, here, boy, let me grab you by the head and slap some reality into your ass. Because, he presented, huh?
I don't know. They're both presenting big, broad scope, long-term, big ideas. Neither of them, I think, really got that deep into characterization in their books, particularly. And in different ways, you feel like the characters in both sets of books are at the mercy of larger forces at play. Even in God Emperor, he's kind of doing his assigned role, whereas Paul was ruined by trying to resist what he was supposed to be doing. But yeah, there's kind of this big idea, this social science fiction. If you try to make it about the characters, I think you start to miss the broad sweep of things. So in Dune, he was just really trying to get away from this idea of sleek rocket ships and robots and high tech and get back to something human. But he does that by introducing the magical MacGuffin of the spice and just replaces all the technology with people, which is interesting, but it's still big idea science fiction.
It is, but it also kind of delves into lots of other things too, like genetic engineering, human mutations, things like that. And some of that is kind of explored in the Dune Prophecy show. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't read Sisters of Dune because it's supposed to be about the Bene Gesserit sisterhood, and that's what the show is about. I don't know how closely it cleaves to the source material, so I'm not going to say, oh, well, no, it's just like the books. So if you've read the books, yeah, please let me know how close it is, because I would like to know. I don't want to have to read the book simply because I really want to stay Herbert purist and just stick to my originals.
I haven't watched it yet, but from what I understand, it's not particularly close to the books, because this is meant to be like the early period of the Imperium, and yet it's already got everything in place that you see 10,000 years later, which it probably shouldn't quite have.
Well, one of the things that I could say I don't like about the show is it's very much girl boss, although that fits because it is the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood. They are, they do have powers and things and all that sort of, and it does focus on them, so it's mostly female centric. So it being girl boss is just kind of like, it kind of fits. It's annoying, but it kind of fits. But it does kind of touch on some of the elements that aren't really talked about in anything else, which is like the face dancers, because there is a face dancer present in the show. It does talk a little bit more about the thinking machines and how they're banned and why they, don't like them and how they're illegal. It does talk a little bit more about the Butlerians. If anything, it paints the Harkonnens out to be even worse than you actually imagined. Because if you follow this as canonical history, then apparently the Harkonnens, not only did they murder a whole bunch of Atreides, but they were also cowards during the Butlerian Jihad. And one of the Harkonnens, Valia Harkonnen, managed to kill one of the upper level Bene Gesserit sisters and supplant her and kill off all of her followers and basically take over the sisterhood and run it her way. And her way is to create the genetic breeding program that that she has to use AI to figure it out. So that's already forbidden. But she basically has to use AI to figure out how to get the best matches in the universe together in order to breed the traits that they want to make easily manipulated people so that they can guide the universe in the direction they want. Which, I'm just kind of like, man, don't give women ideas like that. They'll start doing it.
Women already control reproduction, so that ship has sailed.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought it was enjoyable for what it was. I'm not sure about how close to the continuity it really is. I don't know if any of that stuff is canonical or not. I have a feeling if Herbert was still alive and he watched it, he'd be like, "You guys kind of messed this up a little bit."
The most glaring problem with the films was the use of lasers.
Yeah, they're not supposed to use
someone
those.
with a shield. Then
it's a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, and you can kiss Arakeen goodbye. So.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what the whole deal with the shields was. Is like, only slow things could penetrate the shield, not fast things like lasers or fast moving projectiles like bullets.
Yeah, and there's that horrible reaction if a laser hits the shield.
Mm-hmm.
Piper, I don't think it's girl boss. June, as originally written, is very much girl vizier rather than girl boss. They're the whisperers and manipulators, seeding planets with religious cults and things to subtly control them. It's all about subtlety. It's all very, very unfashionable, sort of gendered ways of wielding power.
Mm-hmm. No, I love Dune from a lot of different perspectives. I'm talking about the books, because it is it's a pretty true telling of what happens to people when they gain too much power, when they gain too much responsibility, when they literally have godlike powers to change things. It's like, they screw them up. Because everybody's like, "Oh, Paul's so wonderful," and and all of this, and I'm just kind of like, you guys haven't read the books, have you? You haven't seen how this ends.
You missed the point.
Yep. Parrothead says, initially the Harkonnens weren't evil. It wasn't until one of them decided not to commit genocide during the war that they were exiled and their hatred for the Atreides began. Yeah. Lasgan meets custom forces.
Part of the point of all these specialities, like the Mentats, the Bene Gesserit, the Tleilaxu, all of them they're all meant to be like the ultimate expression of some aspect of human existence that is a part that is necessary. And so you can see the Harkonnen cruelty and cowardice and so on as being something that might be necessary in some contexts, even though it's bad in most normal circumstances.
Yeah. I don't know. Esoteric Order Nerdy says Leto the Second was a hero. The guy who literally turned himself into a sandworm. Anyone played the Free League game? No, I haven't. My deceased friend bought it, and then he died. So, yeah, we didn't.
You mean the Modiphius game?
Yeah, I think that's the one he means. Mentats, wasn't that a group? That was Men Without Hats, JP.
You can cigarette brand in the 50s.
You can spice if you want to. Mentats, freshness. Mentats, fresh and full of life, yes, but don't put them in Coke, otherwise they'll blow up your planet. Oh my gosh. I still remember Mentats and Fallout. So
yeah,
so that's always stuff.
Orange flavor.
Orange flavor Mentats, yeah. Speaking of which, we're supposed to be getting a second season of that at some point. I don't know when, but that one still causes kind of a lot of controversy as well, because there's a lot of us who actually, yes, it had problems, yes, but it was still kind of fun in its own way. It's kind of like turn your brain off and just enjoy. But
we shall see, I suppose. I think people just really didn't like the eradication of Shady Sands was the big thing.
I think that was the big thing, but there were lots of other little smaller things. I mean, I don't know. I've watched endless numbers of channels that have just, gone to town on that show and just didn't like it. But Critical Drinker liked it, and I liked it okay. I mean, it's like...
Yeah, I have slightly more respect for Critical Drinker, because even if he is going against the flow, he'll say if he likes something. So, yeah. I thought it was all right. Good, even.
Whenever someone refers to a certain politician as the God Emperor, I tend to think of Dune before 40K. Yeah, well, there you go. Mentats were created by a human raised by a free machine. So Parrothead has obviously read the Dune series, which is good.
The prequels, though. Oh, Kevin J. Anderson.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he can write a lot of words relatively quickly.
And Esoteric confirms, yes, it was Modiphius. Free League published the Blade Runner RPG, though. Yeah, we haven't played that yet.
No, it's on the list.
I don't know what the appeal would be to play the Blade Runner. I mean, I keep meaning to pick it up for myself, but every time I do, I'm like, why? Do I really want to play this? Can I make this as good as the movie? I notice I said movie.
I don't think it has to be as good as the movie. It just needs to be pretty good.
To me, a Blade Runner game can almost easily be, subsumed into a cyberpunk game because they're so similar.
Cyberpunk, the tech is much more front and center. People have lots of different cybernetics and so on, whereas Blade Runner's more film noir in a grimy, rundown, breaking down future with less high tech. So.
Oh, Archer's gonna go play in the World of Darkness. Okay, which edition? This is the important question. Mercury says, I've got the Dune Encyclopedia, so I don't want to read the prequels. There you go. I mean, that's fair.
I've got that as well.
I don't have it. I should get it.
It's technically not canon.
Is it not?
NWOD, get out.
It's not really NWOD, is it? No. Guild Navigators were created by the greatest sorceress, ugly, powerless daughter. Oh, the new one. Oh, it's Tabletop Junkies NWOD game, I guess. Blade Runner game would make one, and only one, potentially great campaign exploring the core theme of humanity. Other than that, it's an indifferent detective noir. Yeah, see, that's kind of where I'm at, Kit. I'm still waiting on my copy of Sentience to get here, because that's a game that I think will explore humanity and AI and robots and everything else kind of in the way that I would like to.
I think technically Alien and Blade Runner and Soldier are all part of the same universe.
And Outland.
Yes, and Outland. Or at least it thematically fits.
Yeah, there's all supposed to be in the same, Ridleyverse or whatever you want to call it.
Damn that Riddler.
I guess so. Which is kind of sad, because everyone I've heard who's talked about that new Gladiator 2 film is kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like it's basically trying to ape the first film and failing on many levels. I just haven't heard enough good things about it. I suppose I actually need to break down and watch it one of these days whenever it comes on streaming services, but I don't want to.
If you're not excited about things now, you can just wait for them, and it doesn't take that long, really.
Oh, no, Angry Piper, not Outlander. Outlander is a good show, but that's the one about the Scottish time travel, or the English time traveler back in ancient Scotland and all that stuff. I'm talking about Outland, the old space film with Sean Connery. Yeah. And Peter, what's his name? The guy with the head. He played young Frankenstein.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you understood what we were talking about. Yeah. That was a good movie, but I have not seen it since I was a kid, so. Yeah, Outline is 3:15 to Yuma in space. Yeah, everybody has said that, and it is, but or High Noon in space. Okay, it's still good, guys. It's still good. It's still a good movie. Don't just, Peter Boyle. Yes, thank you, Kit. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you. I did watch a couple of classics. One of them was written by Ray Bradbury, which was Ghost Story. Had all the famous old actors in it, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Fred Astaire, and John Houseman, and all those guys. Actually, pretty good movie. It also had a very young, topless, what's her name? Alice Krieg. I mean, Jesus. I've seen her. The last film I saw her in was the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which that film sucked ass. But because it's Fede Alvarez. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. There's a lot of new directors and stuff who are hot names, but their films they absolutely eat my balls. Okay, they do. They gargle both of them. Okay, Fede Alvarez is one of them. Denis Villeneuve is the other one. And there's other ones, I'm sure. But those two guys hit the top of my list on please stop making movies. Because all they do is they take old properties and they just don't get it. It's like, this is my love letter to the film. That's very nice. Why don't you just keep that to yourself and fap to it? Okay, don't show the rest of the world, because then they think it's canonical somehow.
Yeah, this isn't a love letter. It's a sticky...
Yes.
Kidnap ransom note made of cutout letters.
I mean, come on, like Alien Romulus. I'm like, that was dumbass shit there.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's
at least
dumb.
not Blumhouse.
I mean, I would rather it have been Blumhouse. Because this was some. I mean, I'm serious. No, I mean, I'm serious. It's like this is some stupid shit. I mean, it's like at one point they're floating weightless in this tunnel, and they have face huggers coming after them and stuff. So, they're worried because it's like, they're in a pressurized atmosphere and they're trying to get away from these things. So they're bright idea is to start shooting them. And I'm kind of like, okay, you have just created a 3-dimensional hazard in space because every time you shoot one of these things, their blood spreads out and it stays where it is. It doesn't move. Not to mention, if you were worried about hull integrity, the fact that you're shooting all these things in there means eventually one of them is going to contact the hull with their, biological acid that can eat through 5 or 6 decks worth of deck metal.
I guess at least if there's no gravity, it's not going to be drawn down and burn through the decks. So there's that.
Yeah, but it'll still splatter on the sides of the tunnels and stuff.
Some of it will just float around,
Yeah, I mean, and God help the next person trying to get through there.
Hope they're not in a hurry.
Yeah, they have to be really moving slow. But
though an acid that powerful would probably completely oxidize pretty quickly.
I don't know, or maybe it would freeze. No, it's weightless. It's not atmosphereless. So.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's dumb. It's just dumb. That, and they basically resurrected Ian McKellen Ian. What's his name for it?
Bilbo.
Yeah, Bilbo. That guy. I forgot his fucking name. I can't believe it. But yeah, I mean they basically digitized his likeness and put it on Holm. Ian Holm. Yeah. And put it on a CG Android. And I'm just kind of like, no. There was no reason for you to do this. Why did you do this? I mean, yeah, JP I checked out after Prometheus. Okay, I was suspect after AVP, was hopeful for Prometheus. The xenobiologist was a little... Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Prometheus was dumb as shit. The guy who has all the fancy, mind mapping, interior mapping software and doodads and everything else gets lost in the tunnels. What happened? Did he forget to pack his mapping? And then, the biologist, walks over and, oh, look, it's so cute. And then, of course, he gets killed by it. And I'm just kind of like, are you...
Yeah, and it wasn't cute. Yeah. If it had been cute, maybe that would have been acceptable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess to xenobiologist. That and making the android on David so, homicidal.
For some reason.
For some reason. I mean, it didn't even make any sense.
Adequately explained.
No. I mean, it was a wonderful performance. I mean, Fassbender really did a good job on that. But yeah, that made no sense whatsoever. Archer, you take care of yourself, buddy. I feel like we're...
No, go on.
What? I kind of feel like we're mostly ranting about
film
stuff from 2024, which is fine. I mean, this is our first stream of 2025, and I figure a lot of the first stream of 2025 is not so much what we're looking forward to, so much as it's like, let's look back at 2024 and look at all the stuff that was stupid.
Yeah, I think we've got an idea of the year coming though already, because Wizards already dropped another controversy.
Mm-hmm.
Selling all the D&D rights for gambling.
Oh no! What do you mean?
So D&D fruit machines.
Oh, that's right. The pinball.
And probably various forms of online gambling. Pinball, I don't mind. I like a good pinball machine. And I think there were D&D pinball machines in the past, which were a lot of fun. So I don't have an issue with that. But the gambling, it's not very... it doesn't fit the profile they've been trying to engineer for themselves, does it?
I mean, it's pretty obvious at this point that the D&D brand is just an IP for them to make money off of, and that they are not really stewarding the original vision. Of course, I say this, and then I remember that the original Dungeons and Dragons under Gary Gygax had shrinky dinks. They did. I've seen them. So, I don't think Gygax would have been opposed to, you know, I hate to use this term, whoring out his creative vision to other licensable things if he could have.
I think it's less egregious if you're the original creator and you're doing it because you need money to keep the company afloat, which was very much the case with TSR. So I think it's less egregious then. I also think it's more egregious when Wizards do it because they try to project this, progressive, lovely sort of facade to people, and yet they're perfectly happy to go along with gambling, which does not bode well for loot boxes and things in the digital realm. And
man,
gambling is massive predation, primarily on poor people and addicts. So,
yes, dude. I was going to mention this too. It's like, I said I was rewatching Sons of Anarchy. Well, I can only I do have the DVD series. I just don't want to go dig it out. So I just started firing it up on Hulu, right? I figured, let's get some use out of my subscription. And of course it has ads because I'm not going to pay for the ad-free one because I don't use Hulu that much. But I digress.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The ads that they're running, quite a few of them are for online, like gaming apps that you can, play on your phone and stuff like that. Like, Cleopatra cards or bingo and all this other crap. And I'm just kind of like, this is the same kind of Tencent Candy Crush, hyper monetized, addictive gamble software that, they like to market. And now they're actually making ads for it. And so, yeah, that's a thing.
So predatory.
It is. All of it is. And that stuff is like inundating Steam. It's like every time I turn around, there's a porn game suggestion, and I'm just like, oh, look, it's a free to play. And immediately my suspicion button goes bing, 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 bing. But I load it, I try it out, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. And oh, look at all these in-game purchases I can make to help me. Wow.
Everyone's chasing those whales.
And there aren't any.
Yeah. I don't think the Knoll thing that God Rockets mentions, I don't think that was official Wizards.
It is not. In fact, I was just about to post that up. So for those of you who didn't know, because we had to do a little bit of research on this too, this piece of paper, this page here, is from the Forge of Foes. It is not an official WotC piece of work. But yes, there is an entire page here on anti-colonial play, and it does talk about nulls. Some of the things are like, use ancestries as adjectives. Quote, unquote, null bandits are attacking villages, rather than nulls are attacking villages, to avoid forcing narrow morality onto sapient creatures.
Yeah, the problem with that in D&D is that canonically nulls are demons. So,
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Literal embodiments of evil.
I mean, first it was orcs, and then it was goblins, and now it's nulls. I mean, they're making every monster less monstrous, one monster at a time. They had their whole thing with, orcs as black people, and they fixed it by turning them into Mexican people. So that was better, right?
Yeah.
Who live in the high desert and pick cactuses and stuff, I guess. I don't know.
Misunderstood.
They're just misunderstood. And then, what do you want to call it? Paizo, of course, made goblins everybody's friend when they made them a playable PC race right in the core book, because they were just like, oh, this great cataclysm happened and all the goblins lost their homeland. So all the goblins were, taken in by civilized society. I'm just kind of like, your premier adventure for Pathfinder, the very first thing your characters do is have to fight off a goblin attack on the village where they're gleefully singing about what they're going to do to you and all of the shit in your village. But because, Paizo thought that goblins were cute and they were releasing a new goblin adventure every year, that, they would rehabilitate the goblin image in their game. So now goblins are okay. I'm sorry. I firmly have Goblin Slayer episode 1 in mind every time I think about goblins. And if you haven't seen that, you should.
The thing that gets me with this, though, is they always treat it like the humans or the forces of civilization and good are the only ones that do this, that they move in and take over areas. Whereas, in the narratives, actually, you quite often find, the orc barbarian tribes are raiding into civilized areas, much like Vikings, who were arguably more civilized in some ways than the people they were raiding, used to raid into other areas. So is it only bad one way if you're doing it for a king? Is that bad? And is the other way around not bad? And is the kingdom just supposed to sit there and take it while their border farms are raided and people are carried off and clapped in chains and animals are carried away and crops are despoiled? It's so narrow, and it ignores the fact that these kind of things make for good stories. Settlements, survival, border skirmishes, these make for interesting campaign structures.
Most people don't ever put an eye to racial how racial mechanics as far as how they survive. Okay, we know that the American Indians, who were Plains Indians and all that kind of stuff, they were migrational because they basically were following the buffalo to survive. That was their whole way of life. It depended on the buffalo, getting their meat, getting their resources, and making use of every part of the animal to survive off of. They didn't raise buffalo, but they used them because the buffalo were breeding in such large numbers. But they didn't stop and plant crops and grow and all this other stuff like that. They didn't, the Indians didn't come into contact with other people until those people started encroaching in on the buffalo territory. What?
Yeah, you nearly said humans.
Oh, I nearly said humans. Yes, I did. Whoops. You know what I meant.
Though other tribes were static and did grow crops and things. So
yeah.
It did depend.
But that's the thing.
Were.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, if you have an orc tribe that is static and grows crops and all that kind of stuff, okay, they might fight for growing territory or something like that. But for the most part, yeah, they're probably not going to have to raid anybody. But that sure presents a whole different way of life for orcs. But
then these are species, and you also have to factor in the metaphysics in a fantasy world. There are gods. They exist. They
walk around.
Peoples for purpose. They walk around. They do communicate directly and indirectly with shamans and seers and clerics. And an orc is a big beefy boy with tusks. Not really built for farming exactly. You could put a tiger in a cage, but it's still a tiger.
Yep. Yeah. And goblins are small, predatory, sharp-teethed, and all that. Obviously, they're some kind of like little ambush predator type thing. They're not. They're not going to sit there and grow stuff.
Swarm hunters, like critters.
Yeah, basically.
The Pathfinder goblins always reminded me of critters.
Yeah, especially with their big old heads. Which, speaking of which, how's our kobold species book coming along?
Didn't I already put that out? Yeah, I already put that out.
I didn't get a copy.
You didn't? Okay.
No. Give us a link to where we can.
Business.
Yes. Give us a link so we can sell it on here on this program.
Okay. Here. Hang on.
All right.
In the private chat.
Boom. Okay. Let me see. All right. Let me pull this up.
It's the goblins one.
All right. I'm not so much tooting my own horn as I am, giving you guys a look at a supplement that might actually be of use to you. I'm just happy to have contributed to it. But yes, Rack and Ruin, 3 flavors of kobold. It's only $2. For $2, you get something I wrote and Jim wrote. Which I haven't even seen it yet, so I'm curious to see how it came out. But it's very fun, and maybe you get some different ideas for how to use kobolds.
And it reconciles the fact that there are at least 2, possibly 3 different interpretations of kobolds. Turns out that they're a highly plastic species.
Yeah. That's the one where you describe difference in kobold species. Yeah. I contributed one of them because it was my interpretation of kobolds. And I thought it was, kind of cute and civilized, and maybe you could actually do something with them. They're not just horrible monsters. But I always thought that kobolds were just kind of weak and easily bullied by everybody else anyway. So it's kind of a case of, I never really saw kobolds as a threat unless you went after them in their own tunnels and stuff, in which case you're going to get torn apart. But if you caught one individually, he'd beg for his life and do anything you wanted because he's used to being bullied. That would probably be the best character you could ever run, too, by the way, is to play a kobold character who is, basically been bullied and everything else. And, he's just cowering in fear of the rest of the adventurers. You tall guys are so dangerous. Please don't hurt me.
So the Rack and Ruin books, it's racist class, which is what the RAC stands for. And it's meant to be broadly compatible with the OSR, but particularly compatible with BECME. And there's some rules, suggestions, and differences there as well. So.
Mm-hmm. And he did one on goblins, too. That was pretty good. So yeah. Definitely worth checking out. Add it to your library. I mean, less than a cup of coffee. Come on. You could do worse. Let's see. The grunts in Halo remind me of kobolds. Yeah, kind of. The little cowardly things. Yeah. No, I honestly think that they would keep kobolds as like some form of slave labor or bullied labor, which is what a lot of people thought about goblins too. But I'm kind of like, goblins never struck me as being particularly smart. Kobolds always did.
Yeah. Goblins are cunning opportunists and ruthless. Kobolds are more sort of sneaky and clever.
Yeah. Like, kobolds could actually build stuff. I mean, okay, I guess to put it more simply, even if you go back to AD&D, kobolds' main enemy are gnomes. Right? So, and the characterization of gnomes is that they are, masters of illusion. They're crafty. They do stuff underground, and later on they become tinkers and all this other stuff. So they have to be really smart, really intelligent. So in order to be a good foe for an enemy like that, kobolds also have to be really resourceful. So it just kind of made sense to me that, kobolds would have to have a certain level of intellect and capability if they could menace gnome society.
Probably an arms race of tinkering between the two.
You have a 2 harpoon launcher. We have a 3 harpoon launcher. But anyway, all right. My throat is getting scratchy as hell, and my voice is wearing out. I love it. We're still kind of picking up dust and stuff from all the construction in the house, and I need to change out the filters. Because, yeah, breathing in dust and stuff at night and coughing and choking, that's lots of fun.
Who's running tomorrow?
I am going to be too busy to do anything tomorrow.
Right.
I'm going to be busy cleaning up everything from the last 2 weeks. Like I said, changing out filters, dusting, all this kind of stuff. Because they finally got everything finished that they were working on in the house. It looks great, but now it's the cleanup.
I will see if I can scare up some players, and if I can't, then we'll skip tomorrow. But tonight, in a couple of hours, I'll be running the Safe for Work Tabletopless stream.
On your stream?
It should be on my YouTube channel and the Tabletopless YouTube channel and X and wherever else we can safely do it. But considering we're not showing any boobies or anything, it should be pretty much anywhere.
There you go. So, boobless, tabletopless.
Yes.
All right. Well, you take care, Grim, and all y'all out there in YouTube land. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed the show. I know we kind of rambled and talked back and forth about old stuff a lot, but honestly, I haven't really been tuning into news the last couple of weeks because it's just kind of been on holidays and stuff, and the new year is settling in. I'm sure next week there'll be a torrent of new and controversial weirdness happening, especially in this country after the elected officials of high rank take over. But until that happens, we'll see you next week or at least Tuesday on Tuesday with Geeks. Y'all take care.
On behalf of the staff of the Independent California Motel, I wish you all sweet dreams.